And your favorite little podcast is back, baby. New format, new vibe, new subjects, but the same old Matt, mixing up personal life with childhood memories. It's You're Still Doing That? The Rethink. Welcome to the newly remodeled You're Still Doing That? The Rethink, the podcast that's proudly listened to by tens of people from all over the world. Welcome to episode 3 of season 3. If you missed episode 1 and you want to find out all about our new facelift, give it a listen. This week we've got the Miller update, still doing that, untold stories, and our usual listener challenge. And this week we've had a 20% jump in listeners. That's right, folks. We went from 10 listeners to the big old 12. And our big German listener, thank you for coming back, and Donka to you. And we've got one listener from Russia from last week. So I'd like to give you a big old spasiba. Thanks for listening, folks. Let's go for a big 15 next week. Let's start the pod. Not too much to tell in the Miller update this week. Yours truly's been on spring break. And I got to tell you, there's not a lot that I've got done this week. Then a little yard work. Still had several music lessons throughout the week. I did or started working on some fun writing projects with ChatGPT. Just, for fun. I could never write anything on my own. So the AI is sort of like a ghost writer of sorts. So I feed it ideas and things like that, and it'll shoot out a couple of paragraphs for me, and then I'll make some revisions and give it back, and then it shoots out an updated version. So that's been kind of neat to do that. I had to get some work done on the van, only to have a breakdown again on me yesterday. So we'll just have to make do with what we got till the end of the week when we got more time and money. But so it just never really ends. But I'm sure a lot of you have been in the same boat. You fix one thing and then something else breaks right after. Crissy and I get to sing at my parents' church on Sunday for their Easter service. We'll join the Euphronia choir, which is 7 members strong. Crissy, myself, my brother, my mom, and a few of the church members will be singing on Easter Sunday, so that'll be a blast. Sophie's had a bit of good news and bad news this week. She was offered an internship, which she was excited about, but the internship she was hoping to get was with AmeriCorps. But if you've been following all the stuff our government's been shutting down, AmeriCorps was one of those things that was shut down. So AmeriCorps, if you don't know, was like the Peace Corps, but it's here in the States. They are funded through grants from the federal government. And they pretty much build houses and infrastructure in places where that could be useful to help people get a leg up and a place to stay, and to make their life a little bit easier as they are just trying to make their way. But nope, the Trump administration shut it down this week. And so I don't know if any of y'all have noticed, but the things the government's been shutting down, they're usually the stuff that helps the common person. They're not shutting down other things we think that could be wasteful, but they're just shutting everything down. It's not aspects of an organization, but they shut the whole thing down. AmeriCorps, which its sole mission statement is building homes, building infrastructure, fixing roads, fixing fences, building up communities. That gives people a leg up, so they've got a place to stay, so they can work and feel safe, and then they give back to the community. But that is gone. The government, of course, is slashing Department of Ed. They've just recently announced that the FDA will no longer do federal inspections, that states will have to take up that mantle. The government wants to shut down FEMA. They've already slashed USAID. The NOAA, which is, you hear that used for our hurricane center and weather forecasting, that is being stripped. There is a several government agencies that monitor weather and things like that, and it's split up in regions across the United States. The southeast one for here, which regulates pollen, soil temperature, and things like that for the farmers, that has run out of funding. The government will no longer continue it. And so I know a lot of our local meteorologists are wondering where they're going to get that information from. I'm sure our farmers are as well. The government has pulled us out of the World Health Organization. They want to strip down the EPA. There's people getting snatched in the street. For all of our folks out there that are a little worried that aren't citizens, but are been living here and working here for a long time. I don't know, folks. Trump only won by 1.5%. This is small. It's the fifth smallest in history. 36% of registered voters did not vote for president. That means 56 million people did not give their vote. They did not speak their mind about who they wanted running this country. I wonder how they feel about that right now. I don't know, folks. Voting is important. If you don't vote, that's your chance to speak your mind. Ollie this week, not much to report on her. She's still working at Golden Corral. She's been there for about 4 years. She washes dishes there. Recently, she's been doing prep, which means that she gets to cut up produce for the day, and so she enjoys doing that. She's a hard worker. She likes to do DoorDash on the side, too. And Owen is still here, just living his best life, man. Not much to really update on him. I guess hopefully in August we'll have some good news on him. Crissy's been hard at work on French. That's her big hobby that she likes to do. And she keeps the schedule and classes running along with another coworker, her at CCCC. So that's about it for the family. This week's edition of Still Doing That. I want to talk about music, folks. As a young kid, I remember my parents, they made sure that I sang in church groups every week. And I've got this one funny story. We were living in California, and I was given a solo to sing in a song. And I don't mean a big solo. I just had, like one sentence. And, one kid sang a sentence and another kid sang a sentence, and I got something. And I don't even remember what it was for or the song or the time of year, but I was nervous. I was really, really nervous about it. So this would have probably made me, I don't know how old I was, but I had to be probably 6 or 7 maybe. I'm sure my mom probably remembers, so if you run into her, you can ask her. But we were the church met in a school building in California. We didn't have a church at the moment, and we were in, I would call it a band room, but I guess the music room of the school. All the choir people were in there practicing, and I was getting nervous, and I fainted. And when I fainted, I fell onto a whole bunch of music stands that were in there. If you guys know the metal music stands, I'd be in a band room or something like that. I crashed right into those things and passed out. And when I opened my eyes, there was just a ton of people all around me. And so I thought I was in trouble. So I just shut my eyes and pretended to still be passed out. And somebody carried me out of that school, or what would have been our church, and out the door and to the car. And now, as an adult, when I run a concert at school, I don't mind a microphone in my hand at all. Actually, I feel quite comfortable when you give me a microphone. I'll just ramble and ramble and ramble right on. It doesn't seem to faze me much anymore. And I was trying to think of when that switch happened. I'm not terribly sure when that switch happened, but it doesn't bug me much anymore at all. So I'm wondering, what do you folks have out there that made you super nervous as a kid? Was it singing? Was it a test? Whatever it was. What was it when you were a kid that made you super nervous? But now you do that same thing as an adult on the regular, and it's no problem whatsoever. Let me know. I'd love to know. What was it that affected you as a kid, but now as an adult, you don't mind it at all? This week on Untold Stories, I'm going to tell the story about how I almost killed about 15 people on a boat somewhere in the middle of the Bahamas. So, when I was a junior in high school, I went on a trip called Teens Westward Bound, or we like to refer to it as TWB, and that was in 1992. And it was a bus trip that went across the United States. It was 23 days. Absolutely wonderful trip. You take a bus, tour the United States for a month. We camped outside under the stars every night. The camp, there was about 70 of us teenagers. We were all split into 7 groups. We all had a name from the Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. I don't remember what dwarf we were. My group's was, but we were all split into groups, and each week, or not each week, but maybe for like 2 or 3 days, your group was in charge of cooking. But it was a great, fabulous trip, life-changing, absolutely loved it. My kids went on that same trip when I think probably they were juniors as well. I think they were 16. They did the same thing. That organization is still running today. I cannot recommend it enough. If you have a child who is high school age, 14, 15, 16, 17, I definitely recommend it, man. Hit me up if you want to know more about the trip, or you can look them up online. It's wonderful. But moving on from that, after you take the trip to Teens Westward Bound, they used to have a second trip called Bahamarama. I don't think they offer it anymore. But basically, that trip was over New Year's, and you would get on a boat, and you would sail through the Bahamas for about a week, and it would be over New Year's, and you lived your life on this sailboat, and we stopped in Nassau for New Year's Eve, and they had a little section of this casino resort place that was for us, and it was a blast. And I'm trying to remember how we got down, because I think we took off from Miami. I don't remember if I flew down there and got off, or, you know what, we probably all got on a bus, the whole group, and rode down. That would make more sense. I don't remember what we did, but now that I'm thinking about it, if I was to organize that trip, I'm sure that's probably what we did. Got on a van and just drove down. But anyways, we got on the sailboat, and we launched from Miami. Bahamarama, also a very fabulous trip. Beautiful, beautiful experience, especially being on the boat during the day. And anywhere you looked, it was just water. Just blue sky, blue water, nothing else in sight. Nothing makes you feel small and humble your ego as you look at that. Also, the same experience when the sun goes down and you can't see nothing at all for miles. No lights, no nothing, completely dark, except you can hear the water lapping at the boat. And you realize that death is just like 2 feet off the side. That also was very humbling as well. I won't ever forget that kind of feeling either. But how I almost killed everybody on that 64-foot sailboat, or however big it was. So the captain of the boat would each give us turns to steer, right? Which we never really sailed by sails. I mean, it had sails, but we just ran the motor the whole time. And so the captain would schedule us to sail the boat. And so I, of course, wanted to be cool and impress probably the other girls that were on the trip. And so I volunteered for a night shift, right? So I get up there for my shift, probably started like midnight or something. And so the captain says that all I got to do is he shows me the compass and he tells me where it needs to stay. And then you can see a light out in the distance, a real small light that is blinking slowly. And so he tells me that is a buoy out in the water. And so we want to make sure we just keep sort of heading towards that buoy. And he said, just point the boat directly at the buoy head on. And then he told me where to keep it in the compass. And he also told me the boat is going to wander. So you don't just hold, I forget what it's called on a boat. It's not a steering wheel, but whatever it's called. You don't hold it straight. The boat is going to wander. The ocean's going to push you around. So you're constantly turning left and right. So just you do your best to keep the front of the boat at the flashing buoy, which was small when I started at the time. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, I said, shouldn't I keep it off the side? Aren't I going to run into it? And he said, oh, it's going to be a long time before we ever get that close. He says, plus there's an alarm down on his cabin that'll go off when we get close enough to it. He said, just keep pointing at it. So that's what I do. And I don't remember how long my shift was, but I just keep the boat centered up there, and we're sailing and sailing. And then finally, I start to notice this light is not so small anymore, that it's bigger than it was. And I was like, well, we can't head towards it. If it's bigger, I don't want to run into this thing. So, but he said he'd come back up and before we got there. So I'm sailing. And it's still getting closer, and it seems like it's getting closer sooner. And then one of the other people on the trip comes up from the bottom, and he's chit-chatting with me, and I said, hey, go tell that captain, I think we're pretty close. And I was like, where do I need to put this boat at? So he goes down there and knocks on and wakes up the captain. And the captain comes up, and he says, oh, I never heard my alarm that I guess had been going off. And he was like, yeah, just keep the light to the side of the boat, just on the left-hand side, and it will be fine. And so I said, how far to the left-hand side? And he said it didn't matter. Just make sure you're not pointing straight at it. Just keep it to the left of the boat. Keep it to the left-hand side. He says, but don't worry, I'll be back up before you get to the buoy. And I said, okay. So he goes back down because he wants to go back to sleep. And so I'm steering, and now I'm keeping it on the left. And it's getting closer, and it's getting closer. And my buddy says, hey, I'm going to get some more people to come up to hang out. And so more people come up on top of the boat, and they're all like, that buoy's kind of close. Should we get the captain? And I was like, he said he would come back. And then that thing flashed again. And this time when it flashed, it was really, it was really close, like super close and way bigger than before. And I was like, ooh, and all of us were like, oh man, I think we're pretty close. And so I turned the boat to make sure I'm more on the left-hand side of this thing, or it's on the left-hand side of the boat, because that seemed pretty close. And I was like, maybe somebody better get him. And as soon as the next person got up to walk underneath the boat to go wake him up, that buoy lit up again. But now this buoy was right off the side of the boat. And we were not far from this thing at all. Like, you could have jumped off this boat and grabbed this buoy, which was not something floating in the water. It was a concrete pole that was in the ocean and went straight up with the light sticking up at the top. And when that light went off, it was like we were standing next to the sun. It was so bright, and we were so close. And it didn't feel like we were going fast, but when that light lit up, and it was right next to us, man, we were zooming past it. And everybody just stopped. And I don't think anybody breathed for like 5 seconds. And then one of the other directors was on the top of the ship with us time, and he was like, we could have just died. We were so close hitting that thing. And it was nuts. I could not get my heart rate to get down. It took me forever because we were not very far off from slamming into that thing and just being a pile of driftwood out there in the middle of a flipping nowhere, man. And then the captain comes up and he was like, "Where's the buoy?" And we were like, "Dude, you just about had us wreck into that thing. We were so close to hitting that." But we didn't hit it. And we went on to the Bahamas trip and everybody was fine. So, yeah, sometimes I think about that evening thinking, man, that would have been a whole course direction changed if I had not pushed that boat a little bit more to keep that light off the left-hand side. And that captain was, I don't know what he was doing, but he was not watching us very good. But it was 1994, man. It was a different time, so I don't know, but we're all still here. So, and I'm sure everyone else on that boat, I don't know if they remember that evening, but since I was driving, that was one of my 9 lives that was used that night. And that is my untold story. And you've made it to the end, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Listener Challenge. Each week, I'm going to give you something to chew on, a thought, a task, or reflection. And then I want you to tell me how you did with this week's challenge. Here we go. For this week's challenge, I want you guys to play some music, do a dance, act out a movie, go for a run, but do something to let yourself go for a moment and forget about the pressures of the week. Give yourself a moment to sweat all the pinned up tension. Your body works best when you use it. Get out there and move. Your body and mind will thank you for it. If you like the podcast, I want to hear all about it. Leave us a message on Facebook or Instagram. Drop us a comment. Let's keep the conversation going, and let's lift each other up. Thanks for listening. I seriously appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Keep doing the work. Keep showing up. And remember, some of the best parts of life come from the things you're still doing. Be good, be kind, be nice, and keep that light buoy on the left-hand side of the boat, folks. Have a great week.